Okay. Hi everyone there in Facebook world, it's now just around 8:30 and I'm here with my friend and peer, Dave Munnings. Those of you that don't know Dave, I'm sure most of you do. Dave is a world championship level agility handler. We're here in his home. You can see these dogs scattered around somewhere. And he is here to talk about puppies, which is a relevant discussion for the Facebook thread that I'm running at the moment. And also I'm going to give you details of the 6th person that is potentially having a puppy and give you some information about that. So the reason it was a bit impromptu that this live is happening with Dave. How we're going to run this is we're going to do the first half of this conversation here, and then we're going to go over to my Facebook group and continue the conversation over there. So if you aren't in that group, you can obviously join it subsequently. Those of you that are there, you can check that out there. If you aren't, I'll add you to it. Just pop your details in and you can catch up with the live conversation afterwards. So those of you that don't, as I said, Dave is a championship world level competitor, and he bred his first litter of puppies. Yep. Between Dave's partner Dan's dog Geek, who's a phenomenal dog. He's an agility champion and won several tickets now. Who's also the litter mate to Dave's Crufts champion fame. They're both combined away dogs, and they were mated to Dave's own bitch or own female, Scarlet, who was the bitch they bought. Hello Dan, why aren't you here? I was expecting you to be here. They were mated and they produced, was it six puppies?
7 puppies.
7 puppies, okay. 7 puppies, and they've all gone to fantastic homes. And I wanted to pick Dave's brain about what his experience was, what he thought about the litter, how they are progressing now 18 months on. So they're all going to be imminently making their debut, hopefully in the next 6 months, into competition. And Dave kept a puppy, and Dan kept a puppy. So Dan kept Boffin, who's a bitch, and Dave kept a dog called Commotion. And just to talk a little bit about them and what he saw in the litter that caused him to come to the conclusion of having those particular puppies that him and Dan chose, and also what they've seen, and if they could have their time again, would they change anything different? Yeah. Right. So just a little bit. Dave and Dan was here last year. We did it a live, didn't we? There?
Yeah.
And when the puppies were here.
Yeah, when puppies were here.
So you got to meet those. I'm sure Dave would. I can pick that up, and you can pick up that conversation that we had that time ago.
Yeah,
so
actually to look at them both.
Yeah, to see how they. Yeah. So just give us a little bit of about the litter, how they're doing, what you.
They're literally just 18 months yesterday, so old enough to compete now.
Yeah.
So they're all obviously homes that we get to see them quite a lot. We get to train them quite a lot. Obviously, we kept 2 ourselves, and Brenda, who was really involved with the litter, she had a bitch as well.
Yeah.
That's
model.
Yeah, model. Yeah. So there's 3 dogs. There were four bitches. They're all very much. You can see the parents in them so much, but they also have their own personalities as well. You know, they're not like exactly like either parent. They're a nice mix actually.
Yeah.
They're exactly what we wanted, was because Geek's quite that his liner can be sensitive. They don't like going wrong, etc. We wanted to put a bit more toughness in there, which is what we got from Scarlet. Because Scarlet's quite a tough bitch. Yeah. So we got exactly what we were hoping. I think they're very athletic. They're everything I hope they would be. Definitely.
Yeah, because it's always a gamble when you mate, isn't it? You hope you chuck the genes in the bottle, you rattle it round, hi Lou, and you hope for the best, and you hope what comes out is something that you want to train and you want to interact with, and you hopefully is going to be trainable, and more importantly going to be those things that are healthy, going to have good temperaments, and etc. etc. And there's a dog that you can live with. So thus far, how are they panning out in terms of health, structure, temperament?
So health-wise, touch wood. They literally.
You grab some wood.
Oh Jesus! Literally, nothing wrong with them so far. So far, but that's why we're not repeating the mating or doing anything yet, because we want to leave a bit longer just to see what turns out. Their lines are, as far as we know, as healthy as you can pretty much get. Hopefully, again, touch wood, there's nothing gonna come up, but you never know. Structure-wise.
Sorry to interject there. Dave and I had this. We just come back from the pub, and we were having dinner, and we were discussing the very conversation of if you were to rule out every single dog without a health problem, there would be no dogs. Dave and I have been dogs for a little while between us, and I would say that the dogs that have great temperaments and have great workability and are really, really nice dogs to work with, there is health issues in those lines. Now we could totally and utterly get rid of them and go, right, let's start from the ground up, but then you're back in the same position of unknown quantities.
All the time. Every line has something in it somewhere, and if they're used a lot because they're a good line, then you're bound to get something come up. People keep going saying, oh, I'm going to go off to this unknown sheepdog line. There's no line that's unknown, but then because they haven't been used so much, there's not so many puppies, you don't know about their siblings so much.
It's a percentage.
Everything's an unknown. I'd rather go for a line that I know, and I know there may be something in there somewhere, but it's far enough away that I want to take that risk.
Yeah, and it's being honest and truthful. Obviously, all Dave's puppy owners are very good friends, very close friends, so he's going to have regular contact with them, and nobody would willingly breed obviously a dog. Certainly giving it to want to have a dog with a health problem, and so it is about just being honest and truthful and having that candid conversation and saying there is this issue, there is whatever side it might be, and being honest and open about it. And if Dan Shaw's watching, clearly Geek is perfect, so we will say no more. Geek wants more compliments. There you go. See, as if without prompting, Dan. So
good stuff,
So and how are they panning in terms of temperament? How are they panning out?
Temperament is what we expected. They're friendly with everything. Mm-hmm. They can be a bit guardy, which we kind of saw in the litter. They even guarded the little chicken wings.
Oh, really?
Not from even just if I go. If they've got a bone, they wouldn't guard it from me. But they'll grab it and run away. But they're very noisy litter. The whole litter are very talky. They're very growly. But it's what we expected from the parents as well. The whole combine away line are very talkative litters. They'd never do anything about it. With other dogs, I would say, we are obsessive about temperament. Most people would say, I think 90% of people would say there's absolutely not a problem with them at all.
You are a bit OTT about it.
I'm OTT about it. We don't like any kind of scrapping or anything, and they don't do anything like that in the house. They love all the dogs they live with. They're perfect with all them. Modi's not amazing with other entire males. But
not that he would do anything. He would just do the male dog thing.
He would just do the male, what a normal male collie would do, which is get all tippy-toey and totter around and think they're really big. Because he is so big, he looks massive when he does it. The bitches, when I say guardy, they're obsessive with their owners, and I mean really obsessive. They don't always like another dog coming to that space if they're in close. I think again that's very normal for a collie bitch to be a bit like that. Again, they don't do anything about it. They might just go and we go, hey, pack it in. Off we go, sort it out, done. It's not like they're at the end of the lead going they would never do something like that. So temperament wise, 100% would breed again because they're so good. But as long as we make sure people are aware, I would tell everyone everything. I'm so honest. Most breeders aren't probably as honest as we would be. And when we bred them, we said we're not sure temperament was the only thing. They might not be like the friendliest dog in the world. We don't always want the friendliest dog in the world that runs off to everything and says hello to everything. I don't really want that. They keep themselves, and they would never do anything nasty to another dog.
I think one of the things that certainly, from a view of anybody that's watching this that doesn't partake in dog sports, versus those of us that do, I would say that, I'm going to make a sweeping statement, I actually don't want my dog to be overly interested in other people, and I actually don't want my dogs to be overly concerned about other dogs. I want them to be largely indifferent and primarily focused on me and what I ask them to do, and I think Dave is definitely similar. And we nurture that within them. If they don't have it, we try to create it and draw it out of them, so the dog has a very single-minded, focused attitude to interaction and being with us. Let's just say you had a litter of puppies and you had one that was particularly almost like overly social, would that be a deciding factor? And if there was one that was less social with generally, or not even the puppy wasn't shy or fearful, it was just indifferent to strangers, but it was very much, bearing in mind you raised them, Dan raised them, was there a puppy in your litter that was very much liked you and Dan and Brenda, but not really bothered about anybody else, or did you not see that trait in the litter?
I don't think we saw that very much. I think they were all quite social puppies. But again, they were all very focused. If you wanted to play with one, interact with one on their own, they would focus really well on you and not think about the rest of it. They were all very good at that. And that's what they're so good at now. They're not really bothered about other dogs. They'll play. If we put them together with our dogs, they'll go and play with them and they'll have a good time with them. But they wouldn't ever choose to go and do that. The only one that's done that was one of them, the one I was going to have and changed my mind with, which we'll probably come into a bit more in a minute. But he was a bit more into other dogs and other people, as he's saying.
Talk about how cute Boffin is.
I got the best one. So he was a little bit more into other people and other dogs. But now Sean's worked through that massively with him, and he's the same as the others now. I'm not really bothered about anything else that's going on around him. He was just a little bit harder to start with that, but you couldn't actually tell. That wasn't something you could tell in the litter. He was, if anything, he was a bit more aloof in the litter.
Right.
And if any of them were, I'd say it was him that wasn't. So would be quite happy to go off on his own.
Right.
And like when we first took him outside and stuff, he'd quite often hang around at the back instead of running over with the others. I couldn't tell if he was being independent or if he was a bit more nervous.
Yeah.
Whereas now I would say probably it was a bit more worried about stuff than being independent.
Right.
Because his whole people session is more like appeasement.
Okay.
He tries to go, hi, he's going to appease everyone all the time. So I'd say maybe it was a bit more...
So looking back in hindsight, you're now reading that a little bit differently.
Yeah, we couldn't tell what it was. I couldn't tell at the time. Was he being independent? Was he go off there and do that? Or was he being a bit like, it's a new environment, I'm not sure. Because it wasn't such a minimal difference. It wasn't a massive thing. It wasn't like he backed off and shivered and was a cowering wreck. He was just a bit like, I'm not going to run over there with all the others. I'll just wait here for a bit and then I'll come over. You know, so it wasn't a huge difference.
It's interesting you say that. So, like, and I'm going to use the comparison. Say, for example, with the litter that I bred 2 years ago now. There was definitely 2 puppies in that litter that I was one of them was definitely very aloof to when anybody went in and saw the puppies, and he was like he would sort of wander over, say hello, and then he'd take himself off on his own. And there was another puppy in the litter that was very soft and sensitive in the litter. So there was one situation which springs to mind, in that in the kitchen, all the puppies went under a stool, and the stool had a little bar across it, and all the puppies went over and they sort of bustled under as they do. Well, she just knocked her head on it, and it wasn't like anything that the other puppies didn't do. She straight away went, oh, okay, that's it, I'm gonna take myself off on my own and gather my thoughts about it. And she showed a real distinct sensitivity. And those 2 puppies, and I was very frank with the people that were interested. I said, she may be a bit softer, and definitely she had a softness about her, and that was consistent throughout her life. And the other puppy, who was a little bit aloof, the one thing that I saw was, though he was a little bit aloof with strangers or people coming in, he really had a thing about Julie who raised them, and he was really... They're shiny. He was very, very into the person that raised him. So it showed me that he definitely had the ability to latch onto somebody. And I think there's a difference, isn't there, between a puppy that may be aloof versus one that goes... For example, if one puppy in your litter really latched onto you and fixated with you, the chances are they're going to transfer, if you choose not to keep that puppy, they transfer that obsession to a new person. So I think there's a takeaway. Just because the puppy doesn't run over to you as the outsider coming in, it doesn't mean to discard it. I think that you've got to observe it and go, how does that puppy react to the person that's
I didn't really have that with any. I'd say actually Boffin was quite obsessive with Dan. Right. He would say she picked it, and she wasn't.
Was that? It'd be interesting to see if Dan's on here and comment. Is that because he gravitated to, and he did a lot with her?
I don't know, he didn't gravitate. When she first came out, we were like, well, that's the ugly one. I was going to want that
really?
one.
Okay.
We weren't that into her, but she just kept showing herself, and she was...
She was quite a little personality.
Yeah, she had a lot of personality.
Was she shrimp?
She was Mauer. No, she was Fluff.
Yeah.
Because she was the big ugly one.
Yeah.
But she's turned into a beautiful little thing now.
Yeah.
But she was obsessive with Dan. She was always wiggling at him and climbing up, and then he's very crazy, and I think she really enjoyed that part of his personality. I would say...
I remember when I was here, she was the little demanding one. She was like, me.
Yeah, she was like that. I think she, like you say, she probably would have done that latched onto anyone, but she really liked Dan when they were looking at because he wanted a boy.
Who can blame her?
But she definitely wanted him. He didn't want a bitch, did he? He wanted a dog, but the dogs just didn't stand out. And I'd say in the litter, the dogs did not stand out as much as the bitches in total. If you're looking for the personality we like, which is crazy, the bitches were definitely more on that kind of nippy, wild little, had a little side.
But do you think now looking at them, that's the fact that the big dogs are so big?
Yeah, I think so. Well, but then Sean's one's quite small, but he still wasn't.
When you say small, is he bigger than the bitches?
Same size.
Okay.
As the bigger bitches. He's not. If he is bigger, it's minuscule. Whereas the other 2 boys are much bigger.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted him because of his structure and size. I like smaller dogs.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we're not going to be speaking out of turn in that. Originally, you gravitated to what was his name in the litter?
Squashy.
Squashy in the litter because he's aesthetically beautiful.
Yeah, he's beautiful to look at.
and for the longest time, I'd say he had the really, really great structure.
Oh, he had it beautiful. He's still got beautiful structure now.
And out the 3 dogs, he's probably the best structure.
I would say the best structure out of the 3 dogs.
And you could see that. That's when was I here? They must have been 6 whatever weeks old. And it was like he was definitely structurally the nicest out of the 3.
Yeah.
But and this is where you've got to constantly balance between structure versus headspace versus temperament, etc., etc. And although those of you that are on the my other Facebook group, I did the talk about structure. The thing about structure is people use it as now. Obviously, you need to be aware of structure, and if a dog has a structural issue, as in like it had something that really, really is going to cause you long-term problems, I would probably say maybe not have that dog. However, and I'm going to use Thriller as an example, and I talked about Thriller specifically because she's a dog with a very poor structure in terms of she's very straight and she has poor angulation, and the long-term effect with her is that because she's such a kamikaze dog, it's actually caused, she abuses her body largely, because she doesn't have any sort of like shock absorbers in her shoulders, she has arthritis, etc., etc., which could potentially shorten her window of working life, which saying that she's still fit and competitive at 10 years old, but it definitely long term it could affect her how long she's with me for. Let's hope not, but it could have effects on her health. So, but if a dog has, say for example, I would say looking at your litter, looking at it objectively, they all had really nice structure. It was really picking, it was being hypercritical about it. This one's slightly better, but they all had, so the baseline was actually quite high.
And
the standard
with the parents, we knew they were all going to have, they had to have good structure.
Yeah. So it was really come down to, you didn't ever look at the red boy, did you?
He
was so laid back, wasn't he?
He was just too laid back for us. And he was bigger, he was heavier. We didn't know if they were going to be, we don't like big heavy dogs for agility, so we didn't want everyone. He hasn't turned out heavy at all, but he is bigger than, he's heavy, there's more to him. He's not even taller, he's just a bit more to his physically.
And when he matures up, he probably might be a substantial dog.
Yeah, and I don't think it will affect his agility at all, but he's not, I prefer looking at something a bit finer.
Moderate. Dog.
Modi was always a big boy, which is one of the reasons that put me off the other 2 boys, because they were a bit bigger. And he's very tall, he's like 56.5 centimetres, so he is tall. He weighs about 19, which isn't too much, but obviously he's only going to fit out a bit more. So again, if I could change him at all, the only thing I'd change about him would be I'd make him maybe an inch smaller, just a tiny bit, just because he's big and he struggles with the tighter. He will struggle with tighter courses because his stride, he's so athletic, his stride is huge, and he will struggle a little bit. But saying that, I don't know. He is an incredible dog, so it might be absolutely fine. But that's why.
And he's young.
Yeah, and he's very young still. That's why I was definitely drawn to Squashy, because he was a bit smaller. He was more beautiful to look at in my eyes.
And for the longest time, he was always. He was quite a front runner, wasn't he?
He was always up and down with him, because he wasn't the easiest puppy in the litter. As in, out of all of them, he would have days where he was crazy and tugging and crazy, and then I'd take him to a different room and he'd be like, no, I'm not doing it. And he was stubborn as hell. When he decided he wasn't going to play, he wasn't going to play. And there's nothing you could do to make him play. And there's just, and I've had dogs recently that have been difficult journey, and I think he'll be just as good as all the other dogs in the litter, but I knew the journey with him would not have been so easy.
And just to qualify, I mean, the thing to say is, obviously, I know she's watching, not blowing smoke up her backside, but Sean's an incredibly good dog trainer.
And you should do.
And she will get the absolute best out of that dog. There's not a shadow of doubt in anybody's mind. But I think it would be also fair to say that Sean's sometimes got a bit exasperated and frustrated, and she's like, but then that's dog training, and she's had.
And she'll say it's taught her a lot about dog training. She's a slightly harder dog. But it is different to the rest of the litter in that respect, because the others have all been pretty easy with their work ethic. They just want to work and work and work and work, whereas he's gone, some days I do, and I'm freaking phenomenal. Other days, not so much. And he showed that in the litter. Everything was like in the litter he showed. And I wanted him so much to literally just one day I thought, I want an easy one. And that's when I picked Modi, because he was just always good. He wasn't up there in the litter, he wasn't down there. He was in the middle all the time. He was always tugged. He went everywhere confidently. He was really consistent the whole way through. And I thought, after what I've had recently with a couple of my dogs, I want something that's dead simple, that hasn't got any quirks, it isn't weird, and he has been that. He's just so easy to train. Everything about him has been amazing. I would go, I think, next time for middle of the road again, because he's absolutely nuts now. I say he's one of the craziest, but he didn't show that in the litter, to be honest.
I think that's a really good, there's a couple of things there that Dave said which I would definitely echo. One is consistency. So if I'm looking at the litter that I have at the moment, And I'm going to come on to this one that's the final home in a second. But consistency is a really key thing, and that if you can have the fortune to see them several times, obviously Dave saw his litter every day, and you can watch their... Sometimes almost looking at them every day can sometimes, because they change so much.
Well, it's hard.
If you look, it's almost like you want to take a step away and come in, which is the fortunate position I'm in, that I can see them numerous times in the week, but there's a little bit of where they've been raised by somebody else, so I can go in and have a look at and look at it objectively, so to speak. And you can see consistency within the litter. Who's the characters that keep on cropping up? Who's the puppy that keeps on, coming forward or staying back, or etc., etc. And I think that's a really, really good little thing if you can see consistency. So you want to see, if you go on one occasion, that puppy might be having a good day or a bad day, and it might step back. It might, be a bit tired. I know certainly with big puppies, they can have little growing spurts, can't they? And you got to have a growing day, or they have a quiet day, or some puppy that might be naturally an introvert might be having a really crazy day. So it's always good to take that into consideration. And the other thing Dave mentioned was about... I've lost my train of thought there. What was that?
I can't remember what I said now.
That pearl of wisdom, when we've not picked up on it, I should have said. That was the other thing. To take them into... So Dave said he took them into another room. So what I did last week was I took all the puppies, I've done it twice now, into a... the first time, obviously, it was a new part of where they stay, a part of the garden, and took a strange toy with them and gauged their interaction to see how quickly they'd interact, if they'd interact at all. And there was definitely very, very... The characteristics of that particular puppy definitely rung true. I did it again a week later, and the characteristics were still there, but it very much was how the puppies had already adjusted to that environment. So the next thing to do would be to take them somewhere else and see if they... And I think that's a really, really good thing to do. It's not definitive, it's not the end of this row, but it gives you a little bit of an indication of who they are.
It definitely does. And like I was saying about like you said, how can you see them? Sometimes it was really hard to see them every day, because there's such little tiny bits. Like which one do I like, which one I like. Sean only came, we didn't want to see them until the three before her picked, because she didn't want to be tempted by one of the others, then be disappointed. So I think she probably would have chosen Modi out of the litter if she'd had her choice.
So did Dan and Brenda, were they in away from them a little bit more than
a little bit more, definitely.
So did they see any distinct...
They did, because one day Dan came back and wanted to squash it. He was like, I'm having him, he's amazing. The next day he came in, next time he came back, he was like, no, I don't like him so much. And he was the one that was most up and down with stuff. Sean came on that one day to see them. Day she was going to pick, that was the only day she'd come to see him, because she wanted to wait till we'd picked. And on that day he was brilliant with her, and I thought maybe it was just me he didn't like, maybe he just didn't like me. I mean, he was good, and the bitch that had really shone through out of the ones that were left wasn't really that interactive that day. I think if she'd maybe come a couple of times, she may have chosen one of the other ones. I don't know, but on the day, I didn't have any problem with saying have that one, because he looks freaking amazing with you, and it was his thing. He could be phenomenal, and he has those days now. And luckily, they're way more often now. They're noticing all the time, and he has the occasional one where he's a bit silly. But I'd say 90% of the time now he's pretty awesome. But he has just been a harder journey, which is the whole reason I didn't have him and I couldn't have him. For me, he's not the personality for me.
I think you've raised a valid point in that you'd had Boss, who'd been challenging, Urban, who'd been challenging, Famous, obviously lovely.
No, the others were
and to then have another dog where you go...
couldn't deal with it.
And
the thing with him is he would play with the toy, but then he would suddenly redirect and bite. And it was play bite, but it was a hard bite. And I'm not a big fan of getting bitten. I don't like it. Some people, Dan can deal with it. I'll say I'm an absolute whip with my dogs accidentally get me. Sean and Dan can seem to deal with it a lot better than I can. And he still does that now. If you wind him up, he will just bite. And it's all play, but it's a hard bite. It's not an aggressive bite, but he redirects onto something that's not a toy. And I knew that as a puppy, and I thought, they would take me. I'll get annoyed by it. He'll sense my annoyance. He won't want to play. So that was one of the biggest reasons.
That's a really, really good takeaway in that. A little gem there. In that you've got to know who you are. Haven't you? You've got to be truthful with what you are as a person, and therefore, when you look at it with that honesty in your back of your mind, and that you go, I'm this person, I know that that's not something that I like in a dog, or that's going to annoy me, as Dave said, and it's fine to say that. Nobody's, it's about being truthful. So therefore you can find, and the comparison, say Dan's easygoing about that sort of stuff, he's like manana, so it wouldn't have been such a big deal for him to deal with. So you go, that would be a great thing if that puppy showed that
And he did.
Yeah.
And I just knew, myself, I wouldn't do anything about it. But they can sense you get irritated internally. Of course they can. They know when you're annoyed, even if you go, good dog, good dog. But it just wouldn't have suited my personality. And you've got to know that, because Urban doesn't suit my personality. He might have been a better dog with someone else. He's nervous. I don't like nervous dogs. They annoy me when I think, what have you got to be nervous about? Other people go, it's fine.
Bearing in mind the dog's in champion agility, so
he's still a good dog, but he's not like he's some useless dog. But he is. I get internally annoyed.
I think the thing
I can sense it, and they
know it. There's dogs that you really have a great instant rapport with, and you sort of like you just connect with from the get-go, isn't it? And you've definitely had dogs you've had that with, and there's some that you've had to work. Like Boss is a dog you had to work at that relationship.
But now he's probably got one of the best relationships with me out of all my dogs, because I've had to work on it so much. Urban has been tougher in so many different ways, and he is just a very nervous dog, and it's not like I tell him off more than the others, or I get mad at him more than the others.
But the other thing about Urban to say is that Urban's fear-based.
Yes,
but it was very, from the get-go, it was easy to see.
From the litter, when we went and saw that litter, he was nervous. I put it down to maybe the upbringing was a little bit quieter, they hadn't seen so many people and stuff, and I knew other dogs in his line that I quite liked, and so I went for it. I took a risk. Something I won't do again.
And he was a real impulse. You weren't even going to have one.
No, I was going to have one out of fact, which didn't get pregnant, so I went and got something different. And I didn't look into it enough. It was definitely a mistake, not a mistake, because I would never change it.
And at the end of the day, sometimes the impulse things can work out.
Exactly, sometimes they do. But I wouldn't do that again. I found a line I like now, and I get on with them really well, and that's what I'm sticking to.
Because Dobby was an impulse, wasn't he?
Dobby was an impulse, but I did know his lines quite well. I knew other dogs that I trained other dogs that were closely related to him. Whereas Urban, I hadn't seen enough of them away from agility to see what they were like. Even in agility, but Dobby was more. I knew his lines a lot better.
So you felt safer going and taking a risk on that. Okay, so very honest. Some dogs you have an easy time with, and some absolutely not. Every dog you comes out, you have that instant connection with. So, and there's I think both Dave and I have had dogs that we didn't have that instant connection with, and you have to work your relationship a little bit. Questions how open or helping me to be honest to what we want. Thank you. That's a nice comment. So, I'm going to digress for a minute. So, obviously, I've been running this Facebook feeds or these Facebook lives to let you guys know about the competition that I'm running for. To match the people up with the puppies that I currently have. So that's a repeat mating between my two dogs, Fire and Super, and there's their prospective owners and the people that they've all written a little bit of information about the type of puppy that they are looking for, the dog they feel best will suit them, and they've been quite candid and honest about that. And like Dave's just said, that's a really, really important part of when you're looking for a dog. Whether it be a rehome dog, a rescue dog, you've got to be truthful and honest about your lifestyle, what you're looking for, and what you want from a dog, and who you are as an individual and as a dog trainer. Would you say that's fair?
Definitely. I've been gone into litters before thinking which one's going to be the best one at agility, and that's not always what works out. You've got to go in and which one suits
your
me
personality
as a person the best, and then because you have that better connection, they'll probably be better at whatever discipline you plan to go into.
That's fantastic. You both think Geek is possibly too handsome. Do you both think Geek is possibly too handsome? I think it could be a possibility, Dan. Geek could be actually too handsome for words. I certainly think that. Dave's just grimacing, so we're going to move on from that point. So, coming back to the puppies. So, we've gone through each day this week, and I've gone through the people that are having the puppies, and I've given you a little information about them. So, drum roll please for the 6th and final person who's having a puppy from this litter. There isn't a person. That's the catch. There isn't a person.
I was excited then.
Exactly. The 6th puppy doesn't have a home, and as yet. And the reason is, just to give you a little background, she did have a home, but the person who was going to have her has had a change of circumstances, and she felt that this wasn't the right time to have a puppy. And I cannot thank her enough for being honest enough to say that to me at this point, because I would want nothing less than to. She took the puppy on feeling either obligated or she committed and said she'd have one, and then she did a 6 months down the line she felt that it was wrong and at the wrong timing, etc. And that would have been awful for her and awful for the puppy. So I thank that person enough for saying that from the get go. So that means now that the puppy is in need of a home, and before people start. Inquiring about. She does actually have people that are very interested in her, and as yet I've given the people lots of information about the puppy, which I'm going to share with you guys in a second, and I've said to them, look, go and have some time to think about it. It's a big decision to sort of and these people had inquired about a puppy, but at that time I said, I'm really sorry, all the puppies have got homes, but as happens often when you're breeding dogs, there's a change of circumstances and one becomes available, and that's what's happened in this instance. So I've said to all the people, which is the information I'm going to share to you, and tell you a little bit about this dog's personality, and allow them to go away and think about whether, as Dave's just discussed without any prompting from me, whether this puppy is going to be the one for you, and to let them have a think about it. So the puppy that is, I'm not going to tell you which puppy is. This puppy is a little bit more softer than the others, I would say, and she's a little bit of a thinker. And she doesn't matter. There's 4 of them. This puppy, I was meant to keep that. I didn't do that very well. So it doesn't matter. There's 4 of them, so it'll be fine. So this puppy in particular, she plays really, really well. She's very, very interactive. She's very, very peoply. But there's definitely a softness about her. Structurally, she's really nice. I'd say she's one of the stronger puppies structurally. So that would be a great asset for somebody that wants to do, say, for example, obedience or agility. This puppy physically is going to have a lot going for her. There's a softness about her and a sensitivity which may need building and nurturing. So that may not suit everybody. So I know that my preference, if there's 2 puppies, I'm going to definitely pick the puppy that's more bold and outgoing and stronger versus the softer one that would need building up. Whereas I'd say Dan's very good at building soft dogs up. I'd say Dan his forte is really softer dogs.
Yeah, he likes to build them up. He gets a crazy one, builds it up like Boffin. He's made him freaking wild.
Yeah,
he's good with soft dogs.
Will you prefer something stronger?
I prefer. I just find it easier for me. I'm quite good at it, but I don't like it so much. I don't enjoy it so much.
Yeah, process. Yeah,
and
I would say I'm similar. So, for example, if Dave was looking for a puppy at this time and he was thinking about one, I would say that this particular puppy probably wouldn't be one that I'd say for Dave, for example, but I'd say Dan would really flourish because this dog just needs, just building its ego, and it's not to say that she lacks in terms of drive, it's just that she has that little softness about her. As I say, structurally, she's really, really nice. As I say, one of the stronger puppies structurally. So how that's going to work for the last puppy is there's going to be people have made shown some interest, and I'm going to see if we can, as the 6th puppy, identify the person that best fits. So I'm going to for the competition that's running, give you hopefully the decision will be made about her imminently, and give you guys a chance to figure out which puppy, who the person that's best suited, or who I felt was best suited to that particular puppy. So just a bit of a curveball there at the last knockings. It's not always straightforward when you breed dogs. I've only bred 3 litters. Dave's bred 1 litter, and I've been very fortunate. Certainly with the last litter, I've got fantastic homes that just really everything just fell into place. Dave, same thing, but that's not always the case. And as a breeder, you also when you identify puppies in a litter, what would you do then? Say, for example, if you had a puppy in the litter and somebody was like, I absolutely fall in love with that puppy, but you felt in your heart of hearts that wasn't the right personality for them.
I think we would have talked about it. Like I said, everyone we had.
Did you have that situation at all?
I think everyone got the puppy that was right for them, to be honest, because... But
did you have a discussion with them to say...
We did. We kind of... Okay. Before they even picked, we'd thought about it in our heads, and we'd always put each puppy with each person. Right. The only 2 were different were Sean and Lucy. We may have switched those 2 around. Mm-hmm. But it was very much like, will they have that, will they have that?
So you said, they'll have either or of those 2.
Yeah, we thought this into, but everyone else we'd put the big boy with...
Abby,
we put big boy with Abby. We'd put the little red bitch with Kerry. She was one of my favourites. Her structure was stunning. Everything we saw in the litter, even from 3 weeks old, I would say carried on through now, even till now. I think we were very, people saying, oh, don't look at them now, they'll change. But yeah, of course they changed. But they had same physical characteristics, the same personality. Even from the day they came out, we was getting on the freaking nipples first and stuff.
That's
really
people don't really. I don't know. Don't pick a puppy till X amount of weeks old. I would say you can see the day. I would say the puppy. 100% both litters I can say at day old, you could see their personalities.
You could, even just in the before they even opened their eyes, little things they did. Yeah. You could see one was softer, one was a bit more of a bully in a little, and they carried on like that the whole way through. Brenda's one, I love Brenda's one's attitude. A little model, Shrimpy.
Yeah.
She's got a phenomenal. She had a phenomenal attitude all the way through. She was crazy. She was very much come by in a way, very growly and angry all the time, and really crazy on her toys. A little bit feisty with the other puppies. And she was the one that was tugging on her mum's tail and stuff. She was always the naughty little cheeky one. Her attitude for training is incredible. Really? She's absolutely insane, which is what we love. We love dogs like that with that pushy attitude. Yeah. She's the pushiest dog Brenda's ever had by far, and that followed through all the way through. You know, at 5 weeks I was like, no. 4 weeks I was like, no one had that one. It's an aggressive little thing. Yeah, of course it wasn't, but it was like angry little thing. But she's still got that now. That's who she is now. That's who she is now. Even when other dogs that she doesn't know so well come around now, she goes like, but then she's like, oh no, I'll play with you, I'll play with you. But she had that same attitude right from the start all the way through, and she is an angry little soul.
But do you think that's that ability
in a good way?
Do you think the ability to see that stems from being around dogs a lot?
Like I think so, definitely.
And reading dogs.
I read dogs a lot. I see dogs every day in my life, so does Dan.
I wouldn't say like that. To be able to make that assessment at that young age, not everybody could have that and do that confidently.
Yeah, well, I didn't know then that it was going to carry on. You know, now I've bred one litter, I think I'll know a lot more for if we breed again, which we hope to. I think we'll see massively. I'll be able to pick a lot earlier, I think, this time, next time, than I did this time, because I was so stressed about the picking this time, so I didn't know which was going to be better, which one suited me more, because there wasn't one that really stood out for me. If Dan had chosen Modi, I probably would have had Boffin. I would have Bitch, even though I really wanted a dog, because she stood out to me more than the other two dogs did. But it wasn't really hard. But I think next time, because I've seen how they've all turned out so lovely, that I would be almost happy to have any of them. The only reason I didn't pick model in the end, Brenda's one, was because she was a bit smaller. And I'm glad I didn't, because for me, I would have been worried that she's a little bit small for international. Absolutely fine for this country. International, I don't know if she'll struggle or not. You can't tell yet, can you? She's phenomenal.
And she's got a muscle up.
Oh, exactly. She is phenomenal. Yeah. But, and that's why I didn't, and that was the only reason. Attitude-wise, I loved her, but structure-wise, I didn't pick her.
Structure and personality from the get-go, that you can see structure and personality from the get-go. Absolutely. Charlotte Rungwen from New Zealand has just said the same thing. Only last week got told that I was talking rubbish, that you can see structure and personality from the get-go. Wow. I don't know if that's just a fluke, in that I would say in both litters that I've bred, and I would even say like years ago, so a couple of things. Years ago I had another litter of puppies, and I could absolutely, the day they're born, I was like, that one and that one's going to be this and this, or that's what the personality. And obviously at that point I was very naive about, breeding dogs, or dogs in general, and I wasn't sure that would correlate. But as it happened, that's exactly how it all panned out. And before I used to work in, Dave, I used to work in kennels, but the kennels actually used to deal with, a lot of RSPCA cases, and at one point they had two really big seizures of puppy farm bitches, all in whelps. So there was, I think it was, if I remember rightly, it was about 20 plus years ago, so excuse me if I don't get this accurate. I think it was about 25 bitches in whelp.
Show your age.
Yeah, exactly. 25 bitches in one, and there was about, I think there was 20 that came in whelp, and only 15 had puppies out of the second lot. So you're talking about 40 plus litters of puppies, and I was, one of the people responsible for, helping assist whelp them and rear them, etc. And because the kennels had that aspect, and it was also the boarding kennel, a lot of the puppies will, end up being rehomed to clients or people in the board their dogs there currently, and then the dogs would come back and be. So I was there for about 18 months. I think it was about 18 months, 2 years I was there. But we would see the dogs come back, and you could see the personalities in the litter, in the nest, when they were tiny, consistently. And bearing in mind that was the breeds of dogs were Labradors, Westies, Scotties, Bichons, Cavaliers, lots of mongrels or crossbreeds, and there was numerous other breeds of dogs there. And you could see consistently that when they were born to a year or so later, how their characters would stay consistent. So personally, that's my experience. I don't know if anybody would think differently, but I definitely you can see personality traits.
So I didn't know that until we bred myself, and I didn't even believe it was going to be like that. But 100% the characteristics they had early on has stuck even till now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Even just stupid things like picking up the poopy in the garden. There was one that would scream at the poo picker and like, I'm angry at it, I'm angry at it. And I said, this one's got a brilliant attitude. And even now, she's the one that will make noise around
oh, really?
doing agility. That's Lucy's one.
Really?
So fluent. She's the only one that makes noise when she works. So she was the noisiest one on the list. She was always a noisy, always barking to get out, always a noisy little thing. She's the only one that goes into a tunnel and goes, rah, and screams as she goes in. Just little things like that. It's funny the traits that come through, because Fame goes crazy when I pick anything up or do anything.
Yeah.
The traits that have come through especially from the combine away sides, we know that line more. They're strong genetics, and we love those traits. Yeah. Little things like that, things that have come through from parents. Mm-hmm. The way Shrimpy always wants to line it back and do this exactly like Scarlett does. Little things like that, they just have come through. It's amazing. Luckily, it's all so far the good traits that have come through. Yeah. Because obviously they haven't got any bad traits.
Yeah, exactly. Not for geek anyway. Yeah. No. All right. So I'm going to just have a look if there's any questions. Realise Guinness was noisy in the return. No, probably says. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this chat up in this part of my Facebook. So hopefully you've got some information, and we're going to take it to the Facebook group, my other Facebook group. And if you want to join that, it's Kamal Fernandez dog training group, I think it is. Go on there. I'll share a link so you can have a look and click that and join that. I probably won't have time to run through and add everybody in time to continue this conversation. But we're going to jump to that Facebook now to continue this conversation. Don't worry, it's going to be posted there. It'll be live if you do want to subsequently join and then see the rest of this conversation that we're going to have about puppies, picking puppies, and Dave's experience of picking puppies and giving you some top tips. We're going to go for Dave's 5 top tips about picking puppies.
Let's think of that.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks all that has joined us. We'll see you on the other Facebook group. Hopefully this has been interesting and insightful for you. Thanks, Dave, for joining, and we'll see you all in the other Facebook group.
Bye-bye.